I'm going to go through a series of questions that people posted on the AMA questions channel. I won't go through all of them. Some of them I might very well just summarize because some of them kind of touch on the same things. So looking from the beginning, you're welcome to post any additional questions or clarifications, by the way, on the AMA questions channel. I'll be taking a look at that from time to time during the next 45 minutes.
Okay.
So I'll start with. I'll try to follow questions in kind of a group of and thematics. So I might take questions from both three people that actually posted questions. So like Planet, Ram, and Glemen. Seems like you did a good job, collecting those questions. I'm gonna start with a question around how the current bear market affects public mint and how funded we are and how long we can continue to operate. So I'll start by saying that in terms of public mint continued operation, the bear market doesn't affect us immediately or very directly. It does cause it does affect us in two relatively relevant ways. One is obviously we don't want to be selling any tokens unless until the price is much higher. So we wouldn't be selling tokens and won't be selling tokens with prices that are under what happened during the initial IDO. So that means we're not looking at the tokens and the tokens the company has as any form of revenue generation. So what that means is that we will continue to grow and continue to develop at the same pace, and which obviously would be different if the token was 100 times more valuable, where we could afford to sell some to increase the pace of development. But we're also comfortable with the current pace of development. I know some people aren't, but we're always doing and always developing things in a number of fronts. So any new feature that we add is not just on the mobile app or the web app. It's on the API side. It's on the blockchain level. It's smart contracts. It's a series of various things. So worst case scenario, given a bear market, we'll just continue with the roadmap as we have it. If the bear market subsides and the token shoots up, and we have a chance to sell some of it to fund continued additional development, we might be able to speed up development. But worst case scenario, we'll just continue with the roadmap as we've kind of have laid it out.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, the bear market did not affect the development or forced any postponement of anything.
No, not at all. It just we plan for not relying on the token. So it's more that the bear market means we'll just continue with things as they are planned already. So a bear market, to put it differently, a bear market doesn't affect us. A bull market could affect us positively.
Yeah.
The other thing is we are aware, however, that for instance our loyalty scheme includes paying out a portion of additional benefits or additional APY paid in mint tokens, but calculated in dollars. So in a way, the bear market is beneficial for people that are participating in the earn program, because any revenue that they receive paid out in mint tokens will essentially give them more mint tokens, because the mint token right now is very inexpensive. So again, that's a net positive. That's a net positive for our users. So it doesn't affect us directly, but it does affect our users who are taking part in the earn program early on.
Right. That's interesting.
So let me see.
It's a nice way to put things in a different perspective.
Yeah, a lot of these things are just a matter of perspective. We come from a background where we try to you know move on with our business, and we look at our business not as a crypto company. We're a fintech. We have a fintech background. We're building out something that needs to continue to operate and should not have to rely on the crypto market. And unlike other companies so for instance, if we were an exchange, our business model would very much rely on activity in the crypto space, whether up and down. But as it is, we're building out something that is more foundational, where the bear market isn't as relevant to us because we're not focused on volatility and speculation. We're focused on providing real use cases for a digital form of dollar running on a blockchain.
And that's what protects us from the bear market. It's this parallel existence almost.
Yeah. So I see another set of questions here that are around Earn itself and the adoption of Earn and how large Earn can get, and how do we depend on that. So I won't lie, Earn is a very fundamental piece of our plan, but not necessarily because of how it brings in revenue for the company, for Public Mint, which it does. It does bring. Remember that as part of the white paper, a small portion of the payout done to the Mint stakeholders is paid to Public Mint. So it's like 15% of 8% is paid to Mint stakeholders, and then out of that, around 20% is paid to Public Mint. So that's like 0.00 something percent from the APY generated, but it's still a revenue stream. Now, that said, our focus is on providing. It's not as much that we need to generate adoption for Earn, or that the company relies on adoption for Earn. The company relies on adoption of any application that is built upon Public Mint. So Earn is one use case that is built on top of Public Mint. It is one use case that we expose through our mobile app. But the way we see it, there can be multiple wallets, multiple implementations, multiple user interfaces, and multiple applications that show and present Earn to the users, or present the capabilities of Public Mint to the users. On one hand, there's two paths towards growing the Earn program. On one hand, you have continuing to attract more people like you and I. I would rather put money into Earn rather than have to manage spreading money around through a variety of partners, precisely because Earn manages that risk for me and does that balancing out of where funds are. So I believe that as people realize that, and as people realize that each of these companies carries with it a certain risk that is not ameliorated by or mitigated by insurance in many cases, or it is only partially covered by insurance. I think the more money people have in these yield generating CFI and DeFi options, it will become increasingly clear that to spread out your funds through a variety of options is a safer bet than just putting all your eggs in the same basket. So, sorry.
I was hearing you, and I was going like, well, the first thing that you mentioned, I think you jumped super fast on it, but it's basically creating a healthy environment inside Public Mint. So it's not Earn. Earn is the first one, of course, but we already have another two apps, and I think the goal is to make them all work together And
That's a good point.
that's where you
Yes.
need people. Earn will be more or less the base that allows people to get easy access to the rest of the ecosystem.
Yes. So earn is a good entry point because it speaks to a specific something interesting to a lot of people, which is generating yield based on your funds.
Exactly.
Um, so it's a good gateway into the system. And as an example, we're working with looking to onboard companies with large pools of funds that are normally sitting there so that they can bring those funds to earn and generate yield, even if it's for a month or two. So these are companies that have funds, transient funds uh, during specific periods of time, like escrows. So
Okay.
those kinds of funds, like companies that are running operations where they offer a certain form of escrow, and escrow takes 1, 2, 3 months. Um, it's beneficial rather than to just have those funds locked in there doing nothing, to just lock them, but lock them inside Earn.
Yeah,
So
it's to give the idle money a purpose.
yes, exactly. Give idle money a purpose. So the more we can get larger companies or larger, not even companies, but startups and operators that have these kind of issues, the more we can onboard those, the more will increase value in earn. So, and right now it's a shorter path for us to onboard those large providers that would bring in additional funds, because it has a virtuous effect, which is the more money in the system as a whole, the more Mint stakeholders will also earn when they participate in governance, which is an upcoming topic. So
Yeah.
um, this isn't as much about earn gaining adoption or um, looking to bring money into earn. It's about creating this ecosystem where you come for one thing, but you get access to the other things. So if you may come for earn, but then you have the ability to send funds easily and incredibly cheap and instantly to anyone else in the world, or to distribute those funds to a variety of third party wallets, other blockchains, or even wire transfers. So what we're trying to do is create multiple reasons for slightly different kinds of profiles of people to come and experience public mint. It just happens that earn is the one option, the one solution we've developed that is the widest interest, and that can appeal to the widest range of
Yeah.
people and individuals and
And
companies.
that's why we also developed the loyalty program, which it helps people being comfortable on Earn and getting a bit more of advantage because
Yes.
it's the entry, it's the gateway. Listen, Glemin just made a question about the escrow. I don't know if you want to address it in a long form, on a short form. It's
Right.
in the chat on the end of the.
It really is a matter of risk management, because look, if you are holding funds within let's say for a month or two, and by the way, this would never have to be something that the escrow company, or normally this wouldn't be something that the escrow company does for their own benefit. It would be something that they offer as a potential benefit for their customers, um, and from which they can also generate a revenue stream. So it's always a matter of risk versus reward. The one thing now is that anything out there that offers yields of above 5, 6% a year that I'm aware of, it's usually betting on speculation. It's usually some sort of speculative move where it can slightly go up, slightly go down, because safe things like treasury bonds and cash equivalent investments, they don't offer such high yields. Um, these kind of loans, these kind of yields generated by crypto collateralized loans like Celsius, Nexo, and Ibra Offer, and a number of others, they are relatively safe in the grand scheme of things. They are the safer, the way I see it, they are the safer thing after cash equivalents because they do have a collateral, they do have margin calls. Those companies do have automated mechanisms to sell, and unless it's a black swan event where things just spike vertically downwards, um, there's it's relatively low risk. But as a comparison point, I remember when the same thing happened to the Swiss franc a couple of years back, and suddenly uh, dollar and euro versus the Swiss franc also crashed, and collaterals were lost, and so these are the kind of risks that exist every time you
on
don't
real
have your
economy.
funds. Yeah, and unless if you want to have your funds sitting there and earning zero or 0.2%, like banks offer, that's your choice. But
But
this offers another choice,
they also
right?
crash. The banks also crash and also disappear. Let me
Yeah.
make you a question that maybe people want to hear. When are we adding more baskets to increase the safety network of Earn
Right.
program?
So, right, we have a number. I can speak to that. Shifting to our roadmap. So I'll shift to that in a second.
Okay.
I'm going back to this. If you have the option to, particularly if you as an escrow company have bought into additional mint tokens to raise to raise the APY you get, and let's say you can raise it, or you bought an early bird NFT, so you get like 5% on your deposits and so on and so forth, and you can easily grow your revenue, your APY. Let's say very conservatively to 12% in a year, and you put money in, even if it's for a month, it's 1%. 1% of $50 million, that's significant revenue, and it's significant revenue that you can get to share with either party, with the risk of having those funds in a month. So it's not as if you're leaving those funds for a long period of time, and depending on all these companies that Earn relies on to survive, it's a short term risk for a portion of the funds, and I can't make a determination of whether that applies to your business or not, but we can offer the solution out there, and let these companies make that determination on their own.
And
This
it
goes to
comes.
another question. This goes to another question that Ram asked here. What happens in the event of partner liquidation? Like one partner gets hacked and they lost all the funds. There was a scenario amidst when we started. There was a situation when we were starting to develop the Earn program, where a company called Cred, MyCred, essentially crashed and burned. That still didn't mean that they lost all funds, and it rarely happens that they would lose all their funds, particularly if those funds are sitting in a bank, as many are, or in other services. But it could be that the company does lose all funds. Now, if we have 10 partners and the funds are distributed evenly across 10 partners, we now have two, but if we have 10, that means worst case scenario, if one of these companies falls, you get like a 10% cut on your
Yield.
on your money, which
Yes, of
means
course.
that you need to have the money there for a year to recoup that money, that loss. Now, this gets mitigated additionally once we also implement insurance mechanisms, which we are hard at work in implementing. But even so, in the case, there's a spectrum of failure for a partner, right? There's partial failure, like Cred, where they lost, like, I think it was like 30% of their assets, and the other 70 remain there and will be claimable in the future, but for a period of time they're not available, right? But let's assume that on the end of the spectrum is total loss of all the funds on a specific partner, and insurance covers none of it because for some reason it was poorly applied or whatever. So if we have 10 partners, that represents 10% of a loss. In a more normal scenario where there's a partial loss of funds and there's a partial recovery from insurance, that might represent like 2 or 3% loss, which is something that you can make back in 3 months, right?
Makes sense.
The thing is, you have to compare that with the alternative, which is because this is not about loss as something that happens to you. It's about loss as a result of a company failing and the chance that you would have all your funds in that company. So I guess the question is, do you want to be, or how many people out there are equipped to make a knowledgeable and informed choice on which partner to use and then deposit all the funds on that partner or on that protocol, versus taking the safest approach, which is to say, I'm going to spread out this amount. I'm going to spread out my funds and rely on the collective intelligence of the main stakeholders as to where the money should be and when the money should be taken out of a specific partner because there are red flags coming out, right? And that's mainly the question. And many of the people here might feel equipped to make that determination. We're in the crypto space, or the people here are in the crypto space, but we're talking about people that are not as much in the crypto space or that have money sitting on the sidelines and that could be taking advantage of these DeFi and CeFi solutions and don't, because they are afraid that they don't know enough to make these determinations. And what we are offering here is a kind of a safety net where we're heavily reducing risk and still offering a high yield. And that's, I think, is something unique. And it's the reason why we're not in competition with the likes of Celsius or Abra. I've been called to a Celsius show like twice now because they're fine. We are a part of their business in the sense that we bring in a portion of funds to every one of these partners. So we're just leveraging what is out there to bring these solutions to people with reduced risk.
And in the end, Celsius is getting more funds there because the people in the future, the majority of the people that we believe will put money on Earn wouldn't necessarily be able to use Celsius.
Celsius are other partners, yeah.
I'm just using an example.
As an example, yeah. The other thing is also this. If you go, for instance, to most of these companies, they operate a two-sided market. So on one hand, they need to attract people that have crypto assets and want to take loans based on those crypto assets.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, they need to attract people that have dollars and euros and want to generate yield, because they are taking the money from these later people to extend loans to the former people, and generating yield in that process. So if you look at their communication, it's very much aimed both sides, aimed both ways. Whereas in our case, we're squarely focused on the benefit of leveraging your fiat to generate yield in fiat, right?
And providing a safe access.
And providing a safer access to those solutions. So, and if you look at this, we could, if we wanted to take this even safer, we could be generating yields of 8 to 12%, and paying out 4%, and keeping a portion of it kind of in a bank aside, in a pool, to kind of self-insure.
Would still be higher than the traditional banking system.
Exactly.
A lot higher.
A lot higher. This is something that we might do in the future, or even generate two different options, like one that is fully insured by the yield itself that you're generating, like meaning that you're getting like 4% or 5%, and the rest is not revenue. It's put on a pool to compensate the failure of the potential failure of a partner.
Potential, yeah.
Or the possible, yes. But right now, and given where we're at, and by the way, this is a few months back, actually, someone emailed me and mentioned, "Hey, have you looked at this? Stable gains. They're offering 20%. How can public means survive in this landscape when there's someone offering like that high amount of yield?" That is, of course, relying on Terra and UST and Luda, and they were
That went
essentially
well.
yes. I mean, it didn't necessarily have to go wrong, but what that means is that when you're over collateralized and you're printing new dollars and you're using those dollars to pay out a yield of 20%, that kind of growth can't last forever, right? Um, so we're trying to strike a balance where we're offering something that is as low a risk as we can possibly offer. Um, and this goes to your question or to the point before about adding more partners.
Yeah.
We are right now. Our focus is in adding additional mechanisms for bringing funds in. We have Wire. Sorry, USDC. We're adding support for depositing funds in USDC from multiple blockchains, so that will help. And we're adding support for other forms of payment, of bringing funds into public mint. Once that focus of development ends within the end of Q2, second quarter, and we go into the third quarter, then we're going to be focusing on creating a wider net of partners for public mint. But right now, our focus is still on enabling people in countries, particularly outside the US, Latin America, Asia, some countries in EMEA, to bring in funds more directly and through means that they are more familiar with than an international wire transfer to a bank in the US. Right?
So we're providing access.
Right now, we're providing access to onboarding of funds. That's our main role.
Okay.
So let me just skim the.
See if you can get to another question.
Yes. Yeah, so Rem asks here about referral bonus for, I assume this is for inviting people into the app.
Makes sense.
That is
We
something
talked
that
about
we have.
it, yeah.
Yeah, the part of the reason we didn't do that was that we didn't want to make that overly dependent on a centralized API, and to do it on a blockchain would just mean that you would be creating a connection between the person that invited and the person that received the invitation. So we didn't think that at this stage. I think you can get enough out of it by people referring the app in good faith to people, to friends and family and others that they know about that can take advantage of it. And we don't want to, at this stage right now, we don't want to monetize that aspect of suggesting an app that is good because it's good, not because I'm going to make something out of it. So at this stage, we have decided that out of the many things we could do, referral bonuses wouldn't really mean that much at this stage. We might revisit that in the future, of course.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So you mentioned, someone here mentions ACH transfers. Part of the reason ACH transfers are locked is because there was a change in the partner that we use that processes ACH transfers because they were getting hit with a lot of fraud. So we have already implemented Plaid, as you've seen, and we're in the process of implementing those changes with our partner. But because this thing came out of left field, and we're focusing on other priorities. And sincerely, we haven't had as much traffic over ACH. we felt it was better to just pause it and continue with the roadmap that we had and fit it back in a few months from now when we're back to the focus of facilitating onboarding. So right now, as I mentioned before, we're focusing on adding connectivity to other blockchains, so you can onboard dollars from other blockchains. And we've been focusing heavily on version 1.0 of our app, which is available on the Android and iPhone store for about like 2 hours ago.
So that's the big announcement, by the way.
Yeah, I was trying to make it sound casual. I was trying to make it sound casual. Yeah, it's been a lot of effort. The first version of our app was more or less designed to look and feel like a traditional crypto wallet, whereas it took us a lot of effort to get here. But we have successfully, built an app that you can do a few clicks, and you don't have to experience the complexity of crypto around it. Part of it is, for instance, because we store, unless you go into advanced mode, we store, the private key in your cloud account encrypted, so you no longer have to kind of download it to your phone and then upload it somewhere else, or take note of the safety words on a piece of paper that you then lose. No, if you have a cloud account, that's the safest place. Most of us can store some of their data encrypted. So that ability to connect with your cloud account and immediately get a private key stored and then start using the app immediately, that allows us to offer a much more simplified app. We've also made another big simplification, which is before, if you wanted to put money into Earn, you'd have to, let's say, send a wire transfer, which was poorly designed to begin with, in the sense that we're asking people how much they wanted to deposit, and then receiving that deposit. Right now, we've removed that request of how much you want to deposit, both for wire transfer and USDC, because those are transactions that are initiated on a third party outside the system. And if they come in as a deposit on USDC, we can see the amount. If they come in as a wire deposit, we can see the amount. So the flow of the app is much more simplified, in that you can just say, I want to deposit as a wire. It gives you the instructions, you execute. And before, once the transaction came in, you'd get a notification saying we received your deposit, and then you'd have to go back into the app and then move the funds into Earn, and then approve spending on the smart contract of Earn, because it was very much designed as a traditional crypto app.
And that's a big improvement.
Yes. So the big improvement now is on three fronts. First, when you want to move funds into Earn, you just do. You don't have to approve the first step and then confirm on a second step, because under the hood, that's what the mobile app does. Right? You just click OK, and the mobile app handles both transactions to do the approval at the smart contract level, and then the spend of the funds into the Earn smart contract as a single UI operation. So it's much more like, I want to put in $100, OK, confirm, done. So that in itself is far more streamlined. The second part is, you can do that, let's say, with a wire transfer. And when you're depositing from a wire transfer, you can choose to deposit directly into Earn or into your wallet. And if you do it into Earn, as soon as the transaction clears over the bank, will direct that money to your own account, right? Whereas before, you'd have to come back in and then move funds from Earn from your wallet into Earn. You'll notice that the new app has a single Add Funds button, and once you click Add Funds, it asks you whether you want to put those funds directly into Earn or directly into your wallet. So it's a much more streamlined effect, a much more streamlined process. It also supports a new Earn section, which is very much in the early stages, where it just presents you the APY you should expect to be earning, and also what level of revenue you are at whereas these levels of revenue are aligned with our loyalty program. In the future, we'll be showing additional shards, the evolution of earn over time, because it varies depending on what partners offer, and a number of other statistics. But for now, it's at least a place where you can see what level of loyalty you are at and what API you are getting.
Which is a new interpretation for the loyalty program, which is to make it more streamlined for everyone. You also should mention the changes on the design, I think.
Yeah, early on, the app was designed with a very dark background, light colors on that dark background, which make the app look a little bit more snazzy, more modern. But the feedback that we got is that kind of design kind of sounds scary. It makes the app look unnecessarily more complex rather than a more flat and white background based design. So we've fully redesigned the app beyond the welcoming screens. We fully redesigned the app to have a much more flat and clear and light approach. And later in the future, we might introduce a dark theme. But for now, this is the result of a lot of simplification to try and get the app to look more friendly and cleaner to use.
So dark mode is not forgotten. It's just not the right time, but it's in the books.
Yes.
What else?
Let me just. I see Sourcely asking a question here.
Yeah.
So yes, we are currently working on USDC integration with other networks. Once we launch, you'll essentially have access to the networks where USDC is represented, which includes Tron, Solana, and a number of others. We're trying to make it in a way where it doesn't get unnecessarily complex which networks they are in. This implies, adding validation for address formats and a number of other things, and adding a number of UI improvements. And also remember, whenever we're adding something to our mobile app, that means we've also added it at the API level and at the blockchain level. So without using the app at all, you can send an instruction into your blockchain wallet using even MetaMask to interact with the withdrawal smart contract and request a withdrawal to, let's say, Solana. So we are building these capabilities at the API and blockchain level, and then expressing them at the UI level on the mobile app. And interestingly enough, the expressing this as a user interface is typically like 70% of the work. So it's far more involving because it needs a lot more. It needs design, it needs UI, UX, it needs a lot of things. So yes, I think for less than 4 weeks. Less than 4 weeks to offer integration with USDC and into other networks.
They are not used to this type of answering. Less than 4. Is it 4? Less than 4. That's a great answer.
Yeah, well, I mean, he did ask more or less, right? So
yeah.
So I'll go with less. I see another set of questions here that are different from everything else. So I'll tackle these specifically.
Okay.
So one is so that we can come back to these more product related questions. So two things. Rem is asking here, what is Halsey's role in Public Mint in the current state? So Halsey was the first investor. Halsey, comes to our weekly meetings. He is driving conversations with other potential investors. He reviews and offers comment on major changes, not smaller changes, but major changes. Like he was a big defender of the white background, a cleaner look for the mobile app. So he's very much involved in vision and grand decision of things. Whereas primarily me and Paulo are dealing with day-to-day. Well, myself and Rafael and the rest of the team, we handle product design and then present it to the rest of the team. So, but Halsey is still very much involved with his opinion, with and strong views on how we should be doing things. It doesn't mean that he's deciding for the ultimate voice, because we have a very good process on how to socialize discussions within the team and take feedback from the community and all that. But he's very much involved um, as someone that is consulted on major decisions for the company. I also see here the relationship between Public Mint and Signo. This is an easy one to answer. So Signo is my own development company that I've launched back in 2008. Back in 2013, Signo was involved in building, the one of the first versions of Uphold, and then before I moved to become CTO at Uphold. But long story short, Signo is a development house. It has a team of around 50 people with engineers, developers, front end, back end, DevOps, security. And because many of these are in Portugal, it is easier for Public Mint to allocate a team within a company that is already formed than to start a new company here so they can hire people here. So in many ways, you could look at Signo as a company that that Public Mint outsources work to, but with the added benefit that I am also on the other side, and I advocate for prioritizing and for making sure that the team operates in a certain way with regards to Public Mint. So I kind of wear two hats on that front. Public Mint is one of the 2 or 3 larger projects that Signo has, and it essentially there is about around a fourth of the team at Signo that is fully and 100% allocated for Public Mint work. For all intents and purposes, this is Public Mint staff. It just happens that because of formalities of a U.S. company hiring people in Europe, we're doing it through this other company that I own. So,
George, we're running low on time, and I know you have places to be. Maybe it would make sense to address the questions that are being made now.
All right, let me take a look.
Well, the earn level, it's a new concept. I can go there. The loyalty program has 4 different variables: the amount of money deposit on earn, the amount of tokens being held, and the time of the deposit, plus the 4th, which is if you choose to receive the rewards in mint tokens.
Yeah.
The levels, it's a mix of the conditions that you have in your wallet.
Yeah, you should just drop here the link to that article.
I will,
about
for
the
sure.
loyalty programs. Yeah.
Yeah, but and we're preparing an FAQ that will lead you and explain that. I think today will be on.
Great. So Sourcey also asks if you'll be able to deposit USDC without opening the Earn app and can have the address saved elsewhere. Yes. You can already do that. In case that address becomes invalid or deprecated, you'd be getting a notification. Right now, we expect the Ethereum deposit address to remain the same. You'll just be able to get an address for other blockchains. So, notice that you can already use MetaMask with the Public Mint wallet. Sorry, with a Public Mint address. As for the web version of our wallet, you may have noticed that we are prioritizing the mobile version first. Right now, we're looking to consider what the best approach is, and I'll jump ahead to to something that may help answer some of the questions here. We are also working on designing the first version of our governance process. What would look like is questions from the community that we don't really know how to answer would be posted there for people to vote on, typically using a quadratic voting scheme. So in this case, and the reason I mentioned this is that it has occurred to us that one good path forward for our web wallet is that because the web wallet is very much designed to be a fully decentralized app that also connects with the centralized components, but it's very much designed like in the spirit of my Ether wallet. It could be an option for us to just open source it and just let people evolve the web wallet to include whatever other things they want, because it is not part of our. We can't both be pursuing all those little integrations like enabling the web wallet with MetaMask and a number of other things, and at the same time continue to focus on adding access and adding partners and developing features for the mobile app. So one of the things we are entertaining is to rather just open source the web wallet and make it more like a reference implementation, so that people can contribute to it, can implement some of these things, and can benefit from from our efforts as part of an open source community. We have not decided this, but I'm just bringing this out there so you can get a sense of the kind of questions that are going through our minds, because we do have to limit the number of fronts that we're battling. And in addition to development, there's a number of other things that we are doing under the hood to support wider use cases and generate growth for the platform. So in regards to the web wallet, that's a question that's where we have our mind at, which is whether it would be more beneficial and better for everyone if we just open source it and allow people to contribute some of these smaller things like MetaMask integration or Wallet Connect integration. There you go.
There we go.
Is there any, like, I have like 5 minutes more. Let me just backtrack and see if I can see any major current cases here. Yeah, I see Lemon also asking about discussions of using public mint for processing payments within the Vivid Labs ecosystem. This is something that we have been discussing with Vivid Labs for over a year, probably more. And it's more about the timing for them to actually start processing those payments. But if I would say that if they choose to get to the point of processing fiat payments on chain, we are very well positioned to be considered, particularly because not just of the relationship of Halsey having a share in both companies, because that helped us connect. But Vivid Labs wouldn't be using Public Mint just because of that, but they would be using Public Mint because it's a solution that makes sense for their use case. So yeah, we've gotten close to Vivid Labs use case over a year ago. We've had multiple discussions over time. And if they choose to get to a point where they're making payouts on fiat over the blockchain, very likely will be a good contender for that solution.
Okay.
Let me just see here. I see something here. Plan to overcome fear, distrust over stablecoin that exists now due to Luna event. Look, there's dollar-backed stablecoins, and then there's everything else. Dollar-backed stablecoins like USDC or like dollars on the public mint blockchain, where there is a dollar in a bank for every dollar that is on chain. Those are safe. Those are safe from this sort of volatility and bear markets and everything else. You can even see how, for instance, DAI moved to use, I think right now it's around 80%, or a significant amount of collateral for DAI is USDC because it's dollar based. So there are stable coins that are backed 1-to-1 by a dollar, and those have their own inherent risks about the company that issues them and whatever. But done right, there's no risk like with UST or other forms of stablecoins that rely on algorithms and non-dollar based collateral. Because at the end of the day, if those algorithms, if the market crashes and there is essentially what is the comparable to a margin call on the assets they are collateralizing the currency, if those mechanisms don't get triggered fast enough, they might go a step too far and lose the peg. And I think there's a big issue that people understand the algorithms and understand the logic about how they would work, but they fail to perceive the critical mass necessary for those algorithms to be effective at the scale that we're seeing. So when you have billions and billions of dollars issued in a non-dollar backed stablecoin, you need you need millions of people on the other side, executing the mechanisms that are associated with the algorithms that maintain stability of that stablecoin. So just to make it clear, there's dollar-backed stablecoins where there's a dollar there, there's no loss, there's no volatility, there's no issues with bear markets, none of that, and then there's everything else. So I think the market understands that already. I mean, there's people don't have a fear over USDC, and they don't even fear USDT much, even though there's significant indications that they probably don't have access to the entirety of assets that they hold. So I think this will be clear over time, and we'll put it behind us soon enough.
I think that was clear enough.
All right. Any other final questions? I'm gonna
Super
be
quick.
here for like 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7,
well,
6,
thank
5, 4,
you
3, 2, 1, 0.
To everyone that came to hear us. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
thanks everyone.
Especially to the ones that interfered with us and asked us things. That's why we are here. Thank you, Jorge, for coming and being so clear.
You're welcome to put in more questions here, and I'm happy to come over from time to time and try and just drop some answers here.
Yeah, we'll have to do this more times.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. This is really, really good. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your interest, and see you around.
Okay, guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
George.
Bye.